not, it is built upon sand and washed into the sea, returning to its native nothingness. Only divine ideas can endure. Evil destroys itself, for it is a cross current against universal order, and the way of the transgressor is hard. They that were foolish took their lamps and took no oil with them, but the wise took oil in their vessels with their lamps. The lamp symbolizes man's consciousness. The oil brings light or understanding. While the bridegroom tarried, they all slumbered and
Before
slept.
you dive into the questions
And
for
at
the
midnight
setup,
there was a cry
make
of
sure to watch the setup
Behold,
video
the
in which we
bridegroom
created
cometh,
our initial
and ye
diagram
to meet him.
using the rules
Then
and in
all
which
those
we made
virgins
deductions from
arose
those
and trimmed
rules.
their lamps.
This
And
is
the
an
foolish said
orientation
unto the
question.
wise,
It asks
Give us
which
your
one of the
oil, for our
following
lamps
could
are
be
gone
an
out.
accurate matching of
The
monuments
foolish
to the years
virgins
in
were
which they
without
were
wisdom
begun.
or understanding, which is oil
Usually, the
for their
fastest way to
consciousness.
approach
And when they were confronted with a serious situation, they had no way of handling it. And when they said to the wise, Give us of your oil, the wise answered, saying, Not so, lest there be not enough for us and you. But go ye rather to them
these
that sell
questions
and buy
is
for
not
yourselves.
to go through each choice one at a
That
time to
means
find
the
the
foolish
answer.
virgins could not receive more than was in their
Before you dive
consciousness,
into the
or
questions
what
for
they
the
were
setup,
vibrating to.
make
The man received the trick because it was in his consciousness as a reality. He believed he had already received. As he prepared for the trip, he was taking oil for his lamps. Without realization comes manifestation. The law of preparation works both ways. If you prepare for what you fear or don't want, you begin to attract it. David said, The thing I feared has come upon me. We hear people say, I must put away money in case of illness. They are deliberately preparing to be ill, or I'm saving for a rainy day. The rainy day is sure to come at a most inconvenient time. The divine idea for every man is plenty. Your barns should be full and your cup should flow over, but we must learn to ask aright. For example, take this statement. I call on the law of accumulation. My supply comes from God and now pours in and piles up under grace. This statement does not give any picture of stint or saving or sickness. It gives a fourth dimensional feeling of abundance, leaving the channels of infinite intelligence. Every day you must make a choice. Will you be wise or foolish? Will you prepare for your good? Will you take the giant swing into faith? Or serve doubt and fear and bring no oil for your lamps? And while they went to buy, the bridegroom came, and they that were ready went in with him to the marriage, and the door was shut. Afterward came also the other virgins, saying, Lord, Lord, open to
together.
us.
And to do
But he answered and said, Verily I say unto you, I know you not. You may feel that the foolish virgins paid very dearly for neglecting to bring oil for their lamps. But we are dealing with the law of karma, or the law of comeback. It has been called the Judgment Day, which people usually associate with the end of the world. Your judgment day comes, they say, in sevens, 7 hours, 7 days, 7 weeks, 7 months, or 7 years. It might even come in 7 minutes. And you paid some karmic debt, the price for having violated spiritual law. You failed to trust God. You took no oil for your lamps. Every day examine your consciousness and see just what you are preparing for. You are fearful of lack and hang on to every cent, thereby attracting more lack. Use what you have with wisdom, and it opens the way for more to come to you. In my book, Your Word is Your Wand, I tell you about the magic purse. In the Arabian Nights, they tell the story of a man who had a magic purse. As money went out, immediately money appeared in it again. So I made the statement, my supply comes from God. I have the magic purse of the Spirit. It can never be depleted. As money goes out, immediately money comes in. It is always crammed, jammed with abundance, under grace and perfect ways. This brings a vivid picture to mind. You are drawing on the bank of the imagination. A woman who did not have much money was afraid to pay any bills and see her bank account dwindle. It came to her with great conviction. I have the magic purse of the Spirit. It can never be depleted. As money goes out immediately, money comes in. She fearlessly paid her bills, and several large checks came to her that she did not expect. Watch and pray, lest ye enter into the temptation of preparing for something destructive instead of something constructive. I knew a woman who told me she always kept a long crepe veil handy in case of funerals. I said to her, "You are a menace to your relatives and are preparing to hurry them all off so that you can wear the veil." She destroyed it. Another woman who had no money decided to send her 2 daughters to college. Her husband scorned the idea and said, "Who will pay their tuition? I have no money for it." She replied, "I know some unforeseen good will come to us." She kept on preparing her daughters for college. Her husband laughed heartily and told all their friends that his wife was sending the girls to college on some unforeseen good. A rich relative suddenly sent her a large sum of money. Some unforeseen good did arrive, or she had shown active faith. I asked what she had said to her husband when the check arrived. She replied, "Oh, I never antagonized George by telling him I am in the right. Prepare for your unforeseen good. Let every thought and every act express your unwavering faith. Every event in your life is a crystallized idea, something you have invited through either fear or faith, something you are prepared for. So let us be wise and bring oil for our lamps, and when we least expect it, we shall reap the fruits of our faith." My lamps are now filled with the oil of faith and fulfillment. Chapter 4. What do you expect? According to your faith, be it unto you. Matthew 9:29. Faith is your expectancy. According to your faith, be it unto you. We might say, according to your expectancies, be it done unto you. So what are you expecting? We hear people say, we expect the worst to happen, or the worst is yet to come. They are deliberately inviting the worst to come. We hear others say, I expect a change for the better. They are inviting better conditions into their lives. Change your expectancies and you change your conditions. How can you change your expectancies when you have formed the habit of expecting loss, lack, or failure? Begin to act as if you expected success, happiness, and abundance. Prepare for your good. Do something to show you expect it to come. Active faith alone will impress the subconscious. If you have spoken the word for a home, prepare for it immediately, as if you hadn't a moment to lose. Collect little ornaments, tablecloths, etc., etc. I know a woman who made the giant swing into faith by buying a large armchair. A chair meant business. She bought a large and comfortable chair, for she was preparing for the right man. He came. Someone will say, suppose you haven't money to buy ornaments or a chair. Then look in shop windows and link with them in thought. Get in their vibration. I sometimes hear people say, I don't go into shops because I can't afford to buy anything. That is just a reason why you should go into the shops. Begin to make friends with the things you desire or require. I know a woman who wanted a ring. She went boldly to the ring department and tried on rings. It gave her such a realization of ownership that not long after, a friend made her a gift of a ring. You combine with what you notice. Keep on noticing beautiful things, and you make an invisible contact. Sooner or later, these things are drawn into your life, unless you say, for me, too good to be true. My soul, wait thou only upon God, for my expectation is from him. This is a most important statement from the 62nd Psalm. The soul is the subconscious mind, and the psalmist was telling his subconscious to expect everything directly from the universal, not to depend upon doors and channels. My expectations is from him. God cannot fail, for his ways are ingenious, his methods are sure. You can expect any seemingly impossible good from God if you do not limit the channels. Do not say how you want it done or how it can't be done. God is the giver and the gift and creates his own amazing channels. Take the following statement. I cannot be separated from God, the giver. Therefore, I cannot be separated from God, the gift. The gift is God in action. Get the realization that every blessing is God in action, and see God in every face and God in every situation. This makes you the master of all conditions. A woman came to me saying that there was no heat in the radiators in their apartment, and that her mother was suffering from a cold. She added, the landlord has declared that we can't have heat until a certain date. I replied, God is your landlord. She said, that's all I want to know, and rushed out. That evening, the heat was turned on without asking. It was because she realized that the landlord was God in manifestation. This is a wonderful age, where people are becoming miracle-minded. It is in the air. Quoting from an article which I found in the New York Journal, an American by John Anderson, it corroborates what I've just said. The title of the article is Theater Goers Make Hits of Metaphysical Plays. Dave said, the cynical manager, who shall be called Brock Pendleton, with a slight accent of sarcasm in his voice, the other night on the intermission curbside talk. You fellas, meaning the critics, know so much about what New York public wants. Why don't you tell me what to produce? I would, I said, but you wouldn't believe it. You're hedging, he said. You don't know, and you're trying to cover up by pretending to know more than you're willing to say. You haven't any idea than I have this minute what sort of plays generally succeed. I have, I said. There's one surefire success, one thing that works and has always worked, whether it is competing with boy meets girl, mysteries, historical tragedies, etc. No play on the theme has ever completely failed, if it had any merit at all, and a lot of poor ones, but then big hits. You're stolen again, said Mr. Pendleton. What sort of plays are they? Metaphysical, I said, falling slightly with a big word and winning silently for the effect. Metaphysical, said Mr. Pendleton. You mean metaphysical? I paused a moment, and since Mr. Pendleton said nothing, went right on spouting such titles as The Green Pastures, The Star Wagon, Father Malachi, Miracle, etc. Some of these, I added, reached the public over the heads of the critics. But Mr. Pendleton had departed to ask probably every theater in town, is there a metaphysician in the house? People are beginning to realize the power of their words and thoughts. They understand why faith is the substance of things hoped for, the evidence of things not seen. We see the law of expectancy working out through superstition. If you walk on a ladder and expect it to give you bad luck, it will give you bad luck. The ladder is quite innocent. Bad luck came because you expected it. We might say expectancy is the substance of the things hoped for, or expectancy is the substance of the thing man fears. The thing I expected has come upon me. Nothing is too good to be true. Nothing is too wonderful to happen. Nothing is too good to last when you look to God for your good.
So
Now think
number
of the
must be earlier
blessings
than
which seem so far off, and begin to expect them now on the
trapezoid
ground. To perform.
than
I was
R.
told that there were 3,000 promises in the Bible. Let us now expect all these blessings to come to pass. Among them, we are promised riches and honor, eternal youth. Your flesh shall become as a little child's, and eternal life. Death itself shall be overcome.
Greater than both.
Christianity is founded upon the forgiveness of sins and an empty tomb.
T is
We now
earlier
know
than
that all these
R.
things are scientifically possible.
S.
And as we call on the law of forgiveness, we become free from mistakes and the consequences of mistakes. Though your sins be as scarlet, ye shall be washed whiter than wool. Then our bodies will be bathed in light and express the body electric, which is incorruptible and indestructible.
Okay.
Pure substance expressing perfection.
TRS.
I expect the unexpected. A glorious good now
So
comes to
now let's
pass.
try the other one of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So
Chapter
number must
5,
be earlier
The
than
Long Arm of
Vancouver,
God.
right? Okay.
The eternal
must
God
be
is thy refuge, and underneath are the everlasting arms.
downwards.
Deuteronomy 33:27.
Reciprocity.
In the Bible, the arm of God always
SV.
symbolizes protection.
Mhm.
The writers of the Bible knew the power of a symbol. It brings a picture which impresses the subconscious mind.
Yes.
They use the symbols of the rock, sheep, shepherds, vineyard, lamp, and hundreds of others. It would be interesting to know how many symbols are used in the Bible. The arm also symbolizes strength.
W
The eternal God is the refuge,
RT
and underneath are the everlasting arms. And
or
he shall thrust out the enemy from before thee, and shall say,
RT.
destroy them. Who is the
So
enemy
now let's
before
look
thee?
at this.
The negative thought forms which you have built up in your subconscious mind. A man's enemies are only those of his own household. The everlasting arms thrust out these enemy thoughts and destroy them. Have you ever felt the relief of getting out some negative thought form? Perhaps you built up a thought form of resentment until you're always boiling with anger about something. You resent people you know, people you don't know, people in the past and people in the present. And you may be sure that the people in the future won't escape your wrath. All the organs of the body are affected by resentment. For when you resent with every organ of the body. You pay the penalty with rheumatism, arthritis, neuritis, etc. For acid thoughts produce acid in the blood. All this trouble comes because you are fighting the battle, not leaving it to the long arm of God.
So
I have
now
given the following
let's look at
statements to many of my students.
considering
The long arm of God reaches out to other people and conditions, controlling the situation and protecting my interests.
so you're
This brings a picture of a long arm symbolizing strength and protection. With the realization of the power of the long arm of God, you would no longer resist or resent. You would relax and let go. The enemy thoughts within you would be destroyed. Therefore, the adverse conditions would disappear. Spiritual development means the ability to stand still or stand aside and let infinite intelligence lift your burdens and fight your battles. When the burden of resentment is lifted, you experience a sense of relief. You have a kindly feeling for everyone, and all the organs of your body begin to function properly. A clipping quoting Albert Edward Day, D.D., reads, that loving our enemies is good for our spiritual health is widely known and accepted,
is a combo.
but that negation and poisonous emotions destroy physical health is a relatively new discovery. The problem of health is often an emotional one, while wrong emotions entertained and repeated or potent causes of illness. When the preacher talks about loving your enemies, the man in the street is apt to dismiss the idea as unendurable and pious. But the fact is, the preacher is telling you something, which is one of the first laws of hygiene as well as ethics. No man, even for his body's sake, can afford to indulge in hatred. It is like repeated doses of
Okay,
poison.
let's
When you are
try
urged to get
setting
rid
it
of
up.
fear, you are not listening
If we
to a
have
mood-struck idealist. Rather, you are hearing counsel that is as significant for health as advice about diet. We hear so much about a balanced diet, but without a balanced mind, you can't digest what you eat, calories or no calories. Non-resistance is an art, unacquired. So many people are trying to force situations. Your lasting good never comes through forcing personal will. Flee from the things which flee from thee. Seek nothing, fortune seeketh thee. Behold his shadow on the floor. Behold him standing at the door. I do not know the author of these lines. Lovelock, the celebrated English athlete, was asked how to attain his speed and endurance in running. He replied, learn to relax. Let us attain this rest in action. He was most relaxed when running the fastest. Your big opportunity and big success usually slide in when you least expect it. You have to let go long enough for the great law of attraction to operate. You never saw a worried and anxious magnet. It stands up straight and hasn't a care in the world because it knows needles can't help jump into it. The things we rightly desire come to pass when we have taken a clutch
Show
on.
reciprocity
I
twice.
say in my correspondence course, do not let your heart's desires become your heart's disease. You are completely demagnetized when you desire something too intensely. You worry, fear, and agonize. There is an occult law of indifference. None of these things move me. Your ships come in over a don't care sea. Many people, in truth, antagonize friends because they are too anxious for them to read the books and go to the lectures. They make opposition. A friend took my book, The Game of Life, and had it read to a brother's house to read. The young men of the family refused to read it. No, not stuff for them. One of these young men drives a taxi cab. One night he drove a taxi which belonged to another man. In going over the car, he found a book stuffed away somewhere. It was The Game of Life and How to Play it. The next day he said to his aunt, I found Mrs. Shin's book in a taxi last night. I read it and it's great. There's a lot of good reading in it. Why doesn't she write another book? God works in roundabout ways, his wonders to perform. I meet unhappy people and a few grateful and contented people. A man said to me one day, I have a great deal to be thankful for. I have good health, enough money, and I'm still single. The 88th Psalm is very interesting, for we find that two individuals take part. The man who sings the psalm, for all psalms are songs or poems, and Lord God of hosts answers him. It is a song of praise and thanksgiving, extolling the strong arm of God. I will sing the mercies of the Lord forever. O Lord God of hosts, who is a strong Lord, like unto thee. Thou hast a mighty arm, strong is thy hand, and high is thy right hand. And the Lord of the host replies, with whom my hand shall be established. Mine arm also shall strengthen him. No mercy will I keep for him forevermore. My covenant shall stand fast with him. We only hear the words forevermore in the Bible and in fairy tales. In the absolute, man is outside of time and space. His good is from everlasting to everlasting. The fairy tales came down from the old Persian legend, which were founded upon truth. Aladdin and his wonderful lamp is the outpicturing of the word. Aladdin rubbed the lamp, and all his desires came to pass. Your word is your lamp. Words and thoughts are a form of radioactivity and do not return void. A scientist who has said that words are clothed in light. You are continually reaping the fruits of your words. A friend in one of my meetings said that she had brought a man to my class who had been out of work for a year or more. I gave this statement. Now is the appointed time. Today is the day of my amazing good fortune. It clicked in his consciousness. Soon after, he was given a position which paid him $9,000 a year. A woman told me that when I blessed the offering, I said that each offering would return 1,000-fold. She had put $1 in the collection. She said with great realization, that dollar is blessed and returns $1,000. She received $1,000 a short time afterwards in a most unexpected way. Why do some people demonstrate
Let's
wisdom
look at
so much more
those
quickly than
choices.
others?
So
It
we
is
have
because they have
this
the ears that hear. Jesus
Sanambo,
Christ tells the parable of the man
Zelia
who sowed the
than
seed
Vancouver.
that fell upon good ground. The
Trapezoid
seed is the word,
must be
I
near
say.
than both
Listen for the
reciprocity and
statement that
Sanambo.
clicks, the statement that gives you realization. That statement will bear fruit. The other day, I went into a shop where I know the employer quite well.
Wisteria
I'd given one of his employees an affirmation card.
must be
I said to him jokingly,
must not be
I
earlier
wouldn't
than
waste an affirmation card on
RT.
you. You wouldn't use it.
Wisteria
He replied, oh sure,
RTO.
give me one, I'll use it. The following week, I gave him a card. Before I left, he rushed up to me excitedly and said, I made a statement, and 2 new customers walked in. It was, now is the appointed
This
time.
is wrong.
Today is the day of my amazing good fortune. It had clicked.
Let's check it.
So many people use their words in exaggerated and reckless statements.
A.
I find a great deal of material for my talks
Earlier
that
than
you be part of.
Vancouver. B.
A young girl wanted a magazine to read.
Trapezoid must be
She
earlier
called the
than
operator. Give me something terribly new and frightfully exciting. All she wanted was the latest moving picture magazine. You hear people say, I wish something terribly exciting had happened.
RS.
They're inviting some happy but exciting experience into their lives. Then they wonder why it happened to them. There should be a chair of metaphysics in all colleges. Metaphysicians is
Columbus
the
must be
wisdom of the
earlier than
ancients.
Vancouver.
It is the ancient wisdom kept on
Trapezoid
through the centuries of India and Egypt and
must
Greece.
must be earlier than
Hermes
RS.
Trismegistus was a great teacher of
Trapezoid
Egypt.
must be
His teachings were
RS.
closely guarded
Wrong.
and have come down to us over 10
Let's see.
centuries. He lived in Egypt in the
Columbus earlier
days when
than
the present race
Vancouver.
of men was in its
Trapezoid
infancy.
is earlier
But
than
if you read the Kabbalion carefully, You find that he taught just what we are teaching today.
reciprocity, and
He said that all mental
Salambo
states were accompanied by
or later
vibrations. You combine with what you
is
vibrate to.
correct.
So let us all now vibrate to success, happiness,
Salambo.
and abundance. Now is the appointed time. Today
Let's
is the
look
day
at
of my
Wisteria.
amazing good fortune.
Earlier than
Chapter 6. The Fork in the Road. Choose you this day whom you will serve. Verse 24:15. Every day there is a necessity of choice, a fork in the
or
road.
later
Shall I do this
D.
or shall I do that? Shall I go or shall I stay? Many people do not know what to do. They rush about letting other people make decisions for them, then regret having taken their
Salambo is
advice.
earlier than
There are others who carefully reason things out.
Wisteria
They weigh and measure the
earlier
situation when dealing
than
in groceries and are surprised when they fail to
R2,
obtain their
which
goal.
is the case here.
There are still other people who follow the magic path of intuition
Must
and
be
find themselves
earlier
in the
than
promised land
both.
in the twinkling of an eye. Intuition is a spiritual faculty high above the reasoning mind, but on the path is all that you desire or require. In my book, The Game of Life and How to Play It, I give many examples of success attained using this marvelous faculty.
Let's check.
I say also that prayer is telephoning to God, and intuition is God telephoning to you. Correspondence course. So choose you this day to follow the magic path of intuition. In my question and answer classes, I tell you how to cultivate intuition.
Let's check C.
In most people, it is a faculty which has
Must
remained
be
dormant. So we say,
before
awake thou that sleepeth. Wake up to
R
leads and hunches. Wake up to the divinity
and
within.
S.
Claude bragged and
Later
said,
down
to live intuitively is to
here.
live fourth dimensionally.
Trapezoid is a Salambo.
Now when it is
Here
necessary for you to make a decision,
Wisteria
you face a fork in the road.
must
Ask
be
for a
earlier than
definite,
R,
unmistakable lead, and you will receive it.
RT.
We find many events to interpret metaphysically in the book of Joshua. After the death of Moses, the divine command came to Joshua. Now, therefore, arise, go over the Jordan, thou and all thy people unto the land which I do give to them. Every place the sole of your feet shall tread upon, you have I given it. The feet are the symbol of
Must be earlier
understanding.
than this is
So it
wrong
means that
too.
physically, all that we understand stands
C2
under us,
is
the
wrong. Let's look
consciousness.
at B
And what
again.
is rooted there can never be taken from us.
Is earlier than
For the Bible goes on to say, there shall not any man be able to
must
stand
come
before thee
before.
all the days of thy life. I will not fail thee, nor forsake thee. Only be thou strong and very
Before
courageous, that thou
RS
mayest
or
observe to do according to all the law, which Moses my servant commanded thee. Turn not from it to the right hand or to the left, that thou
E.
mayest
Let's
prosper
check E.
whithersoever thou goest. So we find we have success through being strong and very courageous in following spiritual law.
It's
We are back
correct.
again, the fork in the road,
Salambo
the
is earlier
necessity
than
of choice.
Vancouver.
Choose you this day whom ye shall
And
serve. The intellect or
Trapezoid
divine
is earlier
guidance.
than
A well-known man who's become a great power in the financial world said to a friend, I always follow intuition and I am luck incarnate. Inspiration, which is divine guidance, is the most important thing in life. People come to truth meetings for inspiration. I find the right word will start divine activity operating in their affairs.
Let's go for C.
A woman came to me with a complication of affairs.
Trapezoid is
I said
earlier
to her,
than R.
let God juggle the situation. It clicked. She took the
Wisteria
affirmation, I now let God juggle
earlier
the situation.
than
Almost
R.
immediately she rented a house, which had been vacant for a long time. Let God juggle every situation. Or when you try to juggle the situation, you drop all the balls. In my question and answer classes, I would be asked, how do you let God juggle a situation? And what do you mean when you say I should not juggle it? You juggle with the
Let's
intellect.
check E.
The
Wisteria
intellect will
is
say,
first year
times are hard,
and is
no
earlier
activity
than
in real estate.
reciprocity and
Don't expect
trapezoid.
anything until the fall of
Salambo is earlier
1958.
than
With
Vancouver
spiritual law, there is only the now.
and
Before you call, you are answered. For time and space are but a dream, and your blessing is there waiting for you to release it by faith and the word. Choose you this day whom ye will serve, fear or faith. In every act prompted by fear lies the germ of its own defeat. It takes
I
much
don't
strength
even
and
know what the
courage to trust God.
corruption is.
We often trust Him in little things, But when it comes to a big situation, we feel we had better attend
First
to
to
it ourselves
last.
than come defeat and failure. The following
Okay.
extract, a letter which I received from a woman in the
Backward.
West, shows how conditions can change in the twinkling of an eye. I've had the pleasure of reading your wonderful book, The Game of
That
Life
will
and How
be
to Play It. I have 4 boys, 10, 13, 15, and 17, and how wonderful for them to grasp it in their early life and be able to get things which are theirs by divine right. The lady who let me read her copy gave me other things to read, but it seemed when I picked up this book it was magnetic and I could not let go of it. After reading it, I realized I was trying to live divinely, but did not understand the law, or I would have been much further advanced. At first, I thought it
if
quite
it is
hard
first to
to find a
last.
place in the business world
Salambo
after so many years
is
of being
earlier
a
than
mother.
Vancouver. In this
But I
case,
got this statement: God makes a way where there is no way,
Vancouver
and
will
He did
come
that very
first.
thing for me.
Salamba will come later.
I'm grateful for my position and smile when people say,
Abi, let's
"How do you
check.
do it? Manage 4 growing
Trapezium
boys, a home,
is
after all the times you've been hospitalized with
TRS
such major operations, and none of your relatives near you." I have that statement
ST
in my book. God makes a way where there is no way. God made a way for her in business when all her friends said it couldn't
T.
be done. The average person will tell you almost anything can't be done. I had an example of this the other day.
I think
In the
it's
shop,
D,
I
but
found a delightful
let's
little
not
silver
rush it.
dribble which would make just 1 cup of anything. I showed it to some friends with enthusiasm, thinking it's so very cute in one set. It will never work. The other said, if it belonged to me, I'd throw it away. I stood up for the little defibrillator and said, I know it would work, which it did. My friends were simply typical of the average person who says it can be done. All big ideas lead with opposition. Do not let other people rock your boat. Follow the path of wisdom and understanding, and turn not from it to the right hand or to the left, that thou mayest prosper whithersoever thou goest. In the 13th verse of the 24th chapter of Joshua, we read a remarkable statement. And I've given you a land for which ye did not labor, and cities which ye built not, and ye dwelt in them. Of the vineyards and olive yards which ye planted not, do ye eat. This shows that man cannot earn anything. His blessings come as gifts, gifts lest any man shall boast. With the realization of wealth, we receive the gift of wealth.
You know
With the
what?
realization of success, we receive the gift of success. For success and abundance are states of mind. For it is the Lord our God, He it is that brought us up, and our fathers out of the land of Egypt, out of the house of bondage. The land of Egypt stands for darkness, the house of bondage, where man is a slave to his doubts and fears, and beliefs and lack and
Yes,
limitation,
someone's come
the result of
before
having
you.
followed the wrong fork in the road. Misfortune is due to failure to stick to the things which Spirit has revealed through intuition. All big things have been accomplished by men who stuck to their big ideas. Henry Ford was past middle age when the idea of a Ford car came to him. He had great difficulty in raising the money. His friends thought it was a crazy idea. His father said to him tearfully, Henry, why do you give up a good $25 a week job in order to chase a crazy idea? But no one could rock Henry Ford's boat. So in order to come out of the land of Egypt, out of the land of bondage, we must make the right decision. Follow the right fork in the road. Only be thou strong and very courageous, that thou mayest observe to do according to the law, which Moses, my servant, commanded thee. Turn not from it to the right hand nor to the left, that thou mayest prosper whithersoever thou goest. So as we reach the fork in the road today, let us fearlessly follow the voice of intuition. The Bible calls it the still small voice. There came a voice behind me saying, This is the way, walk ye in. On this path is the good already prepared for you. You will find the land for which ye did not labor, and cities which ye built not, and ye dwell in them, and the vineyards and olive yards which ye plant not, do ye eat. I am divinely led. I follow the right fork in the road. God makes a way where there is no way. Chapter 7. Crossing the Red Sea. Speak unto the children of Israel that they go forward. Exodus 14:15. One of the most dramatic stories in the Bible is the episode of the children of Israel crossing the Red Sea. Moses was leading them out of the land of Egypt, where they were kept in bondage and slavery. They were being pursued by the Egyptians. The children of Israel, like most people, did not enjoy trusting God. They did a lot of murmuring. They said to Moses, "Is not this the word that we did tell thee in Egypt, saying, Let us alone, that we may serve the Egyptians? For it had been better for us to serve the Egyptians, than that we should die in the wilderness." And Moses said unto the people, "Fear ye not, stand still, and see the salvation of the Lord, which he shall show to you today. For the Egyptians, whom ye have seen today, ye shall see them again no more forever. The Lord shall fight for you, and ye shall hold your peace." We might say that Moses pounded faith into the children of Israel. They preferred being slaves to their old doubts and fears, for Egypt stands for darkness, than to take the giant swing into faith and pass through the wilderness through their promised land. There is indeed a wilderness to pass through before the promised land is reached. The old doubts and fears encamp round about you, but there is always someone to tell you to go forward. There is always a Moses on your pathway. Sometimes it is a friend, sometimes intuition. And the Lord said to Moses, "Wherefore criest thou unto me? Speak unto the children of Israel, that they go forward. But lift thou up thy rod, and stretch out thine hand over the sea, and divide it. And the children of Israel shall go on dry ground through the midst of the sea." And Moses stretched out his hand over the sea, and the Lord caused the sea to go back by a strong east wind all that night, and made the sea dry land, and the waters were divided. And the children of Israel went into the midst of the sea upon the dry ground, and the waters were a wall unto them on their right hand and on their left. And the Egyptians pursued and went in after them to the midst of the sea, even all Pharaoh's horses, his chariots, and his horsemen. And the Lord said unto Moses, "Stretch out thine hand over the sea, that the waters may come again upon the Egyptians, upon their chariots, and upon their horsemen." And Moses stretched forth his hand over the sea, and the sea returned, and the Egyptians fled against it, and the Lord overthrew the Egyptians in the midst of the sea. And the waters returned and covered the chariots and the horsemen, and all the hosts of Pharaoh that came into the sea after them. There remained not so much as one of them. Now remember, the Bible is talking about the individual. It is talking about your wilderness, your Red Sea, and your promised land. Each one of you has a promised land, a heart's desire, but you have been so enslaved by the Egyptians, your negative thoughts. It seems very far away and too good to be true. You consider trusting God a very risky proposition. The wilderness might prove worse than the Egyptians. And how do you know your promised land really exists? A reasoning mind will always back up the Egyptians. But sooner or later something says, "Go forward." It is usually circumstances you are driven to it. I give the example of a student. She is a very marvelous pianist and had great success abroad. She came back with a book full of press clippings and a happy heart. A relative took an interest in her and said she would back her financially for a concert tour. They chose a manager who took charge of the expenses and attended to her bookings. After a concert or two, there were no more funds. The manager had taken them. My friend was left stranded, desperate, and disappointed. This was about the time that she came to me. She hated the man, and it was making her ill. She had very little money and could afford only a cheerless room where her hands were often too cold to practice. She was indeed in bondage to the Egyptians. Hate, resentment, lack, and limitation. Someone brought her to one of my meetings, and she spoke to me and told her story. I said, "In the first place, you must stop hating that man. When you are able to forgive him, your success will come back to you. You are taking your initiation in forgiveness." It seemed a pretty big order, but she tried and came regularly to all my meetings. In the meantime, the relative had started a suit to recover the money. Time went on, and it never came to court. My friend had a call to go to California. She was no longer disturbed by the situation and had forgiven the man. Suddenly, after about 4 years, she was notified that the case had come to court. She called me upon her arrival in New York and asked me to speak the word for rightness and justice. They went at the time appointed, and it was all settled out of court, the man restoring the money by monthly payments. She came to me overflowing with joy, for she said, I hadn't the least resentment towards the man. He was amazed when I greeted him cordially. Her relatives said that all the money was to go to her, so she found herself with a big bank account. Now
So
she
that
was soon
means
reach
you
her
still
promised land.
the person
She came out of the
coming
house in
with
bondage of hate and resentment
yes,
and crossed her Red Sea. Her goodwill towards man caused the waters to part, and she crossed over on dry land. Dry land symbolizes something substantial under your feet, the feet symbolizing understanding. Moses stands out as one of the greatest figures in biblical history. It came to Moses to move from Egypt with his nation. The task before him was not only the unwillingness of Pharaoh to let go of those whom he had made into profitable slaves, but also to stimulate to open rebellion this nation, which had lost its initiative under the hardships of its taskmasters. It required extraordinary genius to meet this condition, which Moses possessed with self-abnegation and the courage of his own convictions. Self-abnegation. He was called the meekest of men. We've often heard the expression, as meek as Moses. He was so meek towards the commands of the Lord that he became one of the strongest of men. The Lord said to Moses, Lift thou up thy rod, and stretch out thine hand over the sea, and divide it. And the children of Israel shall go on dry ground through the midst of the sea. So never doubting, he said to the children of Israel, Go forward. This was a daring thing to do, to lead a multitude of people into the sea, having perfect faith they would not drown. Behold, a miracle. The Lord caused the sea to go back by a strong east wind all that night, and made the sea dry land, and the waters were divided. Now remember, this could happen for you this very day. Think of your problem. Maybe you have lost your initiative from living so long a slave to Pharaoh, your doubts, fears, and discouragements. Say to yourself, go forward. The Lord caused the sea to go back by a strong cast wind. We will think of this strong cast wind as a strong affirmation. Take a vital statement of truth. For example, if your problem is a financial one, say, my supply comes from God, and big happy financial surprises come to me under grace and perfect ways. The statement is a good one, for it contains the element of mystery. We are told that God works in mysterious ways his wonders to perform. We might say in surprising ways. Now that you have made your statement for supply, you have caused the east wind to blow. So walk up to your Red Sea of lack or limitation. The way to walk up to the Red Sea is to do something to show fearlessness. I will tell you the story of a student who had an invitation to visit friends at a very fashionable summer resort. She had been living in the country for a long time, grown heavier, and nothing fitted her but her Girl Scout suit. Suddenly she received an invitation into men's evening clothes, slippers, and accessories, none of which she had, and no money to buy them. She came to me. I said, what is your hunch? She replied, I feel very fearless. I have the hunch to go anyway. So she squeezed herself into something to travel in and went. When she arrived at her friend's house, she was greeted warmly, but her hostess said, with some embarrassment, maybe what I've done will hurt you, but there are some evening clothes and slippers I never wear, which I've put in your room. Won't you make use of them? My friend assured her she would be delighted, and everything fitted perfectly. She had indeed walked up to a Red Sea and passed over on dry land. The waters of my Red Sea part, and I pass over on dry land. I now go forward into my promised land. Chapter 8. The Watchman at the Gate. Also, I set watchmen over you, and hearken to the sound of the trumpet. Jeremiah 6:17. We must all have a watchman at the gate of our thoughts. The watchman at the gate is the superconscious mind. We have the power to choose our thoughts. Since we have lived in the race thought for thousands of years, it seems almost impossible to control them. They rush through our minds like stampeding cattle or sheep. But a single sheepdog can control the frightened sheep and guide them into the sheep pen. I saw a picture in the newsreel of a shepherd dog controlling the sheep. They rounded up all the living. These three resisted and resented. They bought and lifted their front feet in protest, but the dog simply sat in front and never took his eyes off them. He did not bark or threaten. He just sat and looked his determination. In a little while, the sheep tossed their heads and went to the pen. We can learn to control our thoughts in the same way, a gentle determination, not force. We take an affirmation and repeat it continually while our thoughts are on the rampage. We cannot always control our thoughts, but we can control our words, and repetition impresses the subconscious, and we are then masters of the situation. In the 6th chapter of Jeremiah, we read, I set the watchman over you, saying hearken to the sound of the trumpet. Your success and happiness in life depend on the watchman at the gate of your thoughts. Sooner or later, crystallize on the external. People think by running away from a negative situation, they will be rid of it. But the same situation confronts them wherever they go. They will make the same experiences until they have learned their lessons. This idea is brought out in the moving picture, The Wizard of Oz. The little girl Dorothy is very unhappy because a mean woman in the village wants to take her dog away, Toto. She goes in despair to confide in her Aunt Em and Uncle Henry, but they are too busy to listen and tell her to run along. She says to Toto, there is somewhere, a wonderful place high above the skies where everybody is happy and no one is mean. How she would love to be there. A Kansas cyclone suddenly comes along, and she and Toto are lifted up high in the sky and land in the country of Oz. Everything seems very delightful at first, but soon she has the same old experiences. The mean old woman of the village has turned into a terrible witch, and is still trying to get Toto from her. How she wishes she could be back in Kansas. She is told to find the Wizard of Oz, who is all powerful and will grant her request. She starts off to find his palace in the Emerald City. On the way, she meets a scarecrow. He is so unhappy because he hasn't a brain. She meets a man made of tin, who is so unhappy because he hasn't a heart. Then she meets a lion who is so unhappy because he has no courage. She cheers them up by saying, we'll all go to the Wizard of Oz, and he'll give what we want. The scarecrow a brain, the tin man a heart, and the lion courage. They encounter terrible experiences, where the bad witch is determined to capture Dorothy and take away Toto and the ruby slippers which protect her. At last they reach the Emerald Palace of the Wizard of Oz. They ask for an audience, but are told no one has ever seen the Wizard of Oz, who lives mysteriously in the palace. But through the influence of the good witch of the north, they enter the palace. There they discover the wizard is just a fake magician from Dorothy's hometown in Kansas. They are all in despair because their wishes cannot be granted. But then the good witch shows them that their wishes are already granted. The scarecrow has developed a brain by having to decide what to do in the experiences he has encountered. The Tin Man finds he has a heart because he loves Dorothy. And the lion has become courageous because he had to show courage in his many adventures. The good witch from the north says to Dorothy, what have you learned from your experiences? And Dorothy replies, I've learned that my heart's desire is in my own home and in my own front yard. So the good witch waves her hand and Dorothy is at home again. She wakes up and finds that the scarecrow, the Tin Man, and the lion are the men who work on her uncle's farm. They are so glad to have her back. This story teaches you that if you run away, your problems will run after you. You are discouraged by a situation, and it will go away of its own weight. There is an occult law of indifference. None of these things move me. None of these things disturb me, you might say in modern
Reciprocity
language.
RT
When you can no longer be disturbed,
can
all
come
disturbance will
before
disappear
W.
within your stone. When your
Then
eyes have seen their teachers
if
disappear.
RT
I set watchmen over you, saying, hearken to the sound of the trumpet.
RT
A
must
trumpet is a
come
musical
before
instrument used in olden times to draw people's attention to something, to victory, to order. You will form the habit of giving
This is
attention to
one.
every thought and word when you realize their importance. The imagination, the scissors of the mind, is constantly cutting events to come into your life. Many people are cutting out fear pictures, seeing things which are not divinely planned. With a single eye, man sees only the truth. He sees through evil, knowing that out of it comes good. He transmutes injustice into justice, and disarms the seeming enemy and sending goodwill.
Now, when you
We
have
read in the mythology of the
come
Cyclops,
later,
a race of
you
giants
can
said to have inhabited Sicily. These giants had only one eye in the middle of the forehead. The seat of the imaging faculty is situated in the forehead, between the eyes. So these fabled giants came from this idea. You are indeed a giant when you have a single eye. Then every thought will be a constructive thought, and every word a word of power. Let the third eye be the watchman at the gate. If therefore thine eye be single, thy whole body is full of light. With a single eye, your body will be transformed into your spiritual body, the body of nectar, made of God's likeness and image, imagination. By seeing clearly the perfect man, we could redeem the world with our inner eyes in a world of peace and plenty and goodwill. Judge not by appearances, judge righteous judgment. Nation shall not face war against nation, neither shall they learn war anymore. The occult law of indifference means that you are undisturbed by adverse appearances. You hold steadily to the constructive thought which wins out. Spiritual law transcends the law of karma. This is the attitude of mind which must be held by the healer or practitioner towards his patient, indifferent to the appearances of lack, loss, or sickness. It brings about the change in mind, body, and affairs. Let me quote from the 31st chapter of Jeremiah. The keynote is one of rejoicing. It is a picture of the individual freed from negative thinking. For there shall be a day, the watchman upon the Mount Ephraim shall cry, Arise, and let us go up to Zion, into the Lord our God. The watchman at the gate neither slumbers nor sleeps. It is the eye which watches over Israel. But the individual, living in a world of negative thought, is not conscious of this inner eye. You may occasionally have flashes of intuition or illumination, then falls back into the world of chaos. It takes determination and eternal vigilance to check up on words and thoughts. Thoughts of fear, failure, resentment, ill will must be dissolved and dissipated. Take this statement. Every plan my Father in heaven has not planted shall be rooted up. This gives you a vivid picture of rooting up weeds in a garden. They are thrown aside and dry up because they are without soil to nourish them. But the individual living in a world of negative thought is not conscious of his inner eye. You nourish negative thoughts by giving them your attention. Use the occult law of indifference and refuse to be interested. Soon you will starve out the army of all aliens. Divine ideas will crowd your consciousness. False ideas fade away, and you will desire only that which God desires through you. The Chinese have a proverb. The philosopher leaves the cut of his coat to the tailor. So leave the plan of your life to the divine designer, and you will find all perfect.
God, let's check it
The ground by your eye is holy ground. I now expand rapidly into the divine plan of my life, where all conditions
must
are
be
permanent and
true.
perfect.
Let's check again. You should have checked all the options.
Chapter 9. The Way of Abundance. Then shalt thou lay up gold as dust. Job 22:24. The way of abundance is a one-way street. As the old saying is, there are no two ways about it. You are either heading for lack or heading for abundance. A man with a rich consciousness and a man with a poor consciousness are not walking on the same mental street.
Oh my God.
There is a lavish supply divinely planned for each individual. The rich man is tapping it,
I
for
know
rich
it
thoughts
was
produce rich
just
surroundings. Change your thoughts, and in the twinkling of an eye, all your conditions change. Your world is a world of crystallized ideas, crystallized words. Sooner or later, you reap the fruits of your words and thoughts. Words are bodies or forces which move spiraling
reciprocity is
and
the
return
first
in due
piece of the
season to
CD.
cross the lives of their creators.
Mhm.
People who are always talking lack
we
and
get to
limitations reap lack and
reciprocity and
limitation.
wealth and trappers.
You cannot enter the kingdom of abundance bemoaning your lot. I know a woman who had always been limited in her ideas of prosperity. She was continually making her old clothes do, instead of buying new clothes. She was very careful of what money she had, and was always advising her husband not to spend so much. She said repeatedly, "I don't want anything I can't afford." She couldn't afford much, so she didn't have much. Suddenly, her whole world cracked up. Her husband left her, weary of her nagging and limited thoughts. She was in despair, and one day
If the
she came across a
reciprocity
book on
is the
metaphysics.
first,
It explained the power of thought in words. She realized that she had invited every unhappy experience by wrong thinking.
RS.
She laughed heartily at her mistakes and decided to profit by them. She determined to prove the law of abundance. She used what money she had fearlessly to show her faith in her invisible supply. She relied upon God as the source of her prosperity.
V.
She no longer voiced lack and limitation. She kept herself feeling and looking prosperous. Her old friends scarcely recognized her. She had swung into the way of abundance. More money came to her than she had ever had before. Unheard of doors opened. Amazing channels were free. She became very successful in a work she had no training for. She
Okay, so
found
let's
herself on miracle ground.
arrange
What
it.
had happened? She had changed the quality of her words and thoughts. She had taken God into her confidence and into all her affairs. She had many 11th-hour demonstrations, but her supply always came, for she dug her ditches and gave thanks without wavering. Someone called me up recently and said, "I'm looking
If
desperately for a
trapezoid
position."
must be
I replied,
earlier,
"Don't look desperately for
if
it. Look
reciprocity
for it with
comes
praise
first.
and thanksgiving, for Jesus Christ, the greatest of metaphysicians, said to pray with praise and thanksgiving. Praise and thanksgiving open the
Trapezoid
gates for
cannot be the
expectancy always
second one.
wins. Of course, the law is
If
impersonal, and a
reciprocity is
dishonest
the
person
form,
with rich thoughts will
reciprocity is
attract
first.
riches. But a thing
Vancouver can be
ill-got has ever bad success, as Shakespeare says. It will be a short duration and will not bring
Vancouver is
happiness.
second.
We have only to read the papers to see that the way of the transgressor is hard. That is the reason it is so necessary to make your demands a right on a universal supply, and ask for what is yours by divine right and under grace in a perfect way. Some people attract prosperity
Okay,
but
let's
cannot hold it.
RS.
Sometimes their heads are turned, sometimes they lose it through fear and worry.
See,
A friend in one of my question and answer
if
classes told
Vancouver
this
is the
story.
top piece, what
Some
next?
people in his hometown, who had always been poor, suddenly struck oil on their backyard. It brought great riches. The
Vancouver is
father
the
joined the
top
country
piece.
club and went in for golf. He was no longer young. The exercise was too much for him and he dropped dead on the links. This filled the whole family with fear. They all decided they might have heart trouble, so they are now in bed with trained nurses watching every heartbeat. In the race thought, people must worry about something. They no longer worried about money, so they shifted their worries to
Yes, you
health.
can come here.
The old idea was that you can't have everything. If you got one thing, you'd lose another. People were always saying their luck won't last. It's too good to be true.
RST,
Jesus Christ said, in the world thought, there's tribulation, but be of good cheer. I've overcome the world, thought. In the superconscious, there is a lavish supply for every demand, and your good is perfect and permanent. If thou return to the Almighty, thou shalt be built up in consciousness. Thou shalt put away inequity far from thy tabernacles. Then shalt thou lay up gold as dust, the gold of Ophir, as the stones of the brooks. Yea, the Almighty shall be thy defense, and thou shalt have plenty of silver. What a picture of opulence, the result of returning to the Almighty in consciousness. For the average person who has thought in terms of math for a long time, it
Abi?
is very difficult to build up a rich consciousness. I have a student who has attracted great success by making the statement, I am the daughter of the king. My rich father now pours out his abundance upon me.
Salamba
I am the daughter
is
of
the
the
fourth
king.
piece of the CD.
Everything makes
So
way
if
for
you
me.
have
Many people put up the limited conditions because they are too lazy mentally to think themselves out
Salamba
of them.
being the fourth, right?
You must have a great desire for financial freedom. You must feel yourself rich. You must see yourself
Coming
rich.
before
You must
we know
continually
that okay, we
prepare for
have man,
riches. Become as a little child and make believe
SV.
you are rich. You are then impressing the subconscious with expectancy. The imagination is man's workshop,
And it
the
is
scissors of
always
the
said
mind, where he is constantly cutting out the events of his life.
that
The superconscious is the realm of inspiration, revelation, illumination, and
the
intuition.
work. As if Salamba is
Intuition is
what
usually
already
known as a hunch.
being told
It is
that
now Webster's
we
latest
have
dictionary. I had a hunch to make a punch, and there it
it can
was.
be because the
The
instruction says
superconscious
that
is the realm of perfect ideas. The great genius captures his thoughts
trapezoid
from the
must be
superconscious.
earlier than
Without the vision,
the case where
imagination, my people perish. When people have lost the power to image their good, they perish or go
trapezoid
under.
has to be earlier than
It is
RS.
interesting to compare the translation of the
Knowing
French
that
and English
we have
Bibles.
R in
In the
front.
21st verse of the 22nd chapter of Job, we read, According to thou thyself
Trapezoid is the
within,
last
and be
piece.
at peace. Thereby good shall come unto thee. In the French Bible we read, Attach thyself to God, and you will have peace. Thou shalt thus enjoy happiness.
Okay.
The 23rd verse, If thou return to the Almighty, thou shalt be built up. Thou shalt put away iniquity far from thy tabernacles. In the French translation we read, Thou shalt be reestablished if thou returnest to the Almighty, putting iniquity far off from your dwellings. In the 24th verse, we read a new and amazing translation. The English Bible reads, Then shalt thou lay up gold as dust, and the gold of Ophir as the stones of the brooks. The French Bible says, Throw gold into the dust, the gold of Ophir amongst the pebbles of the torrents, and the Almighty shall be thy gold, thy silver, thy riches. This means if people are depending entirely on their visible supply, it is even better to throw it away and trust absolutely to the Almighty for gold, silver, and riches.
Can trapezoid be the last
I give
piece?
an example in a story told to me by a friend. A priest went to visit a nunnery in France, where they fed many children. One of the nuns, in despair, told the priest that they had no food, the children must go hungry.
So if
She said that they
wisteria is
had but
early
one piece of
enough,
silver, about the value of a quarter of a dollar. They
T.
needed food and clothing. The priest said, Give me the coin. She handed it him, and he threw it out the window. Now, he said, rely entirely upon God. Within a short time, friends arrived with plenty of food and gifts of money. This doesn't mean to throw away what money you have, but don't depend upon it. Depend upon the invisible supply, the bank of the imagination. Let us now attach ourselves to God and have peace, for he shall be our gold, our silver, and our riches. The inspiration of the Almighty shall be my defense.
I'm to
and I shall
ransom me
cleanse your
already.
silver.
I'm control like understand the whole thing. So
Chapter
if
10,
we
I shall
have
never want.
trapezoid
The Lord is my shepherd,
as the
I shall
last
not
piece
want.
on the CD,
Psalm 23:1.
what's coming on
The
here?
23rd Psalm is the best known of all the Psalms. We might say that it is the keynote to the message of the Bible. It tells man he shall never want, when he has the realization or conviction that the Lord is his
If
shepherd.
trapezoid is
The
the last
realization
piece
that
on the
infinite
CD,
intelligence supplies every need. If you get this conviction today, every need will be met now and
the
forevermore.
meaning of that
You will
is
draw instantly from the abundance of the spirits whatever you desire or require, for what you need is already on your pathway. A woman suddenly had the
RS,
realization,
right?
the
So
Lord
we
is my shepherd, I shall never want. She seemed to be touching her invisible supply. She fell outside of time and space, and she no longer relied on the external. Her demonstration was a small but necessary one. She needed at once some large paper clips, but had no time to go to the stationer's to buy them.
Okay.
And looking for something else, she opened a little used chest. In it, she found about a dozen large paper clips. She felt that the law was working and gave thanks. Then some needed money
And
appeared,
reciprocity
things large
is
and
already
small came her
false.
way. Since then, she has relied upon the statement, "The Lord is my shepherd, I shall never want." We used to hear people say,
when
"I
reciprocity
do not think
comes
it is right
early,
to ask God for money or things."
the instruction
They did
says
not
that
realize that this creative principle is within each man. True spirituality is proving God as
can
your supply,
trapeza be the
daily,
last
not
piece?
just once in a while. Jesus
Okay,
Christ in this law,
earlier.
for whatever he decided to
Trapezoid is
require appeared
later.
immediately on his pathway, the
Reciprocity and
loaves, the
salambo
fishes,
must come.
and money from the fishes' mouths. Jesus Christ
And
in this
okay,
law,
so we have
for whatever he
1,
desired or
2,
required
3,
appeared
4,
immediately on
5.
his pathway, the
So,
loaves and fishes, and money from the
so we
fishes' mouth.
have T
With
as
this
the last,
realization,
and we
all
have
holy and saving will disappear.
R as the first.
This does
So
not mean
when
that you should not have a bank account and investments, but it does mean that you should not depend upon them. For if you had a loss in one direction, you would have a gain in another. Always, your barns would be full and your cup flow over. Now, how does one make this contact with his invisible supply?
when
By taking a
trapezoid
statement of truth which clicks and
is
fixing
later
realization. This is
than
not
R
open
and
conclusion
S.
2. Whosoever calleth on the name of the Lord shall be
Okay.
delivered. The Lord is your shepherd, and my shepherd, and everybody's shepherd.
Yeah, no,
God
no.
is the supreme intelligence devoted to supplying man's
Trapezoid
needs.
is the last piece.
The explanation is, the man is God in action.
Trapezoid
Jesus
is the
Christ
last piece.
said,
Reciprocity
"I
is
and
the
the Father
first.
are one."
Trapezoid is last. Reciprocity is
We
first.
might paraphrase the statement and say, I and the
Trapezoid is
great
the
creative
last
principle
one,
of
and
the
reciprocity
universe
is
are one and the
first.
same. Man only lacks when he loses his contact with this creative principle, which must be fully trusted, for it is pure intelligence and knows the way of fulfillment. The reasoning mind and personal will cause a short circuit. Trust in me, and I will bring it to pass. Most people are filled with apprehension and dread when there is nothing to cling to on the external. A woman came to a practitioner and said, "I'm only a poor little woman with no one but God back of me." The practitioner said, "You need not worry if you have God back of you, for all that the kingdom affords is yours." A woman called me on the phone and said, almost in tears, "I'm so worried about the business situation." I replied, "The situation with God remains the same. The Lord is your shepherd. You shall not want. If one
It
door
could be
shuts, another
true.
door opens."
The trapezoid can be
A
the
very
last
successful
piece.
businessman who conducts all affairs on truth matters
Because,
said,
yeah,
"The trouble with most people is that they get to
it
rely
can be
on
the
certain
last
conditions.
piece
They
because
haven't
we
enough
can have
imagination to go forward to
reciprocity
open new
and
channels.
salambo.
Nearly every big success is built upon a failure. I was
Yeah,
told that Edgar Bergen lost
in the
his spot in the
second,
Broadway
and we have
production
V and
because they did not
W.
want any more dummies.
You can have V
Noel
here.
Coward got him on the Rudy Valet radio
We
show,
also have
and he and Charlie McCarthy
reciprocity.
became famous overnight. I told the story at one of my meetings of a man who was so poor and discouraged that he ended it all.
With
A few days later came a letter
RS
notifying him that he had inherited a large fortune.
W.
A man in the meeting said, "That means when you want to be dead, your demonstration is 3 days off."
VT.
Yes, do not be fooled by the darkness before the dawn. It is a good thing
So
to see the
if
dawn once in a while
no,
to convince you how unfailing it is. It reminds me of an experience of several years ago. I had a friend who lived in Brooklyn near Prospect Park.
later than
She liked to do
RS.
unusual things and said to me, "Come with me,
Salambo is
we'll get
earlier
up
than
early and see the
Vancouver.
sunrise in Prospect Park." At
Wisteria
first I
is
refused, and then came the
later.
hunch that it would be an interesting experience. It was in the summer.
Later.
We got up about 4 o'clock, my friend, her little daughter, and myself. It was pitch dark, but we
Then
sallied
it's wrong.
forth down the street to the entrance of the park. Some policemen eyed us curiously, but my friend said to them with dignity, "We are going to see the sunrise," and it seemed to satisfy them. We walked through the
It's
park to
taking
the
a lot
beautiful
of
rose
time.
garden. A faint pink streak appeared in the east, then suddenly we heard a most tremendous roar. We were near the zoo, and all the animals were greeting the dawn. The lion and tigers roared, the hyenas laughed. There were shrieks and howls. Every animal had something to say, for a new day was at hand. It was indeed most inspiring. The lights danced through the trees. Everything had an unearthly aspect. Then as it grew lighter, Our shadows run front instead of behind us.
When
The dawn of
trapezoid
a
is
new day.
earlier.
This is the wonderful dawn which comes to each one of us after some darkness. Your dawn of success, happiness,
Must
and
be
abundance
earlier
is sure
than
to come. Every day is important, for we read in the wonderful
V has to
Sanskrit
come
poem,
here.
look well,
And when
therefore to this
W
day,
is
such is the
earlier.
salutation of the dawn. This day the Lord is your shepherd. This day you shall not want. And as you and this great creative principle are one and the same.
It could be true that
The
vulnerable
34th
cannot
Psalm
be
is
the
also a
first
psalm of
place.
security.
Reciprocity
It starts
cannot
with a blessing
need
from
to
the Lord. I will bless the Lord at all times. His praise shall continually be in my mouth. They that seek the Lord shall not want any
Okay,
good
now
thing.
let's even think.
Seeking the
Salamo is
Lord
the
means
first
the man
place
must
on
make the
this
first
city.
move. Draw near to me, and I will draw near to you,
Okay.
saith the Lord.
Reciprocity.
You seek the Lord by making your affirmations,
Two,
expecting and
four,
preparing for your
five.
good. If you ask
Trapezoid
for
is
success
the
and prepare for failure,
second.
you will receive the
Then
thing you
put
have prepared for.
Salamo here.
I tell in my book
S
the
is
game of
here.
life and how to play it.
T is
Of a
here.
man who asked me to speak the word
T
that all his
and
debts be wiped out.
and
After the
trapezoid
treatment,
is
he said,
earlier.
now I'm thinking what I'll say to the people when I haven't the money to pay them. A treatment won't help you if you haven't faith in it. For faith and expectancy
Than
impresses the subconscious mind with the picture of fulfillment. In the 23rd Psalm, we read,
Mm-hmm.
You restoreth my soul. Your soul is your subconscious mind. It must be restored with the right ideas.
In
Whatever
this
you feel
case, if
deeply is
trapezoid
impressed
is
upon
the
the subconscious
second,
and manifests in your
that
affairs.
means that
If you are convinced that you are a failure,
trapezoid is
you will be a
earlier.
failure until you impress the
And when
subconscious
trapezoid
with the
is
conviction
earlier,
you are a success. This is done by making an affirmation which clicks. A friend in a
R
meeting said
and
that I'd
S
given her the statement as she was leaving the room. The ground you are on is
come
hardest ground.
after. This
Things
is
with her had been
wrong.
very dull, but this statement
Reciprocity is
clicked.
the first
Harvest
piece.
ground. Harvest
If
ground rang in her ears. Good things immediately commenced to come to her and happy surprises.
so, now that we
The
know
reason it
that
is necessary to make an affirmation
it
is
is
because repetition
constant,
impresses the subconscious.
pursues
You
it
cannot
as
control your
first.
thoughts at first, but you can control your words. And Jesus Christ said, by
If
your
we have
words you are justified,
reciprocity coming
and by your
in,
words you are condemned. Every day, choose the right words, the right thoughts. The imaging faculty is the creative faculty. Out of the
is wrong
imaginations of the heart
because
come the issues of life.
these two things have to
We have
come.
all the things to
RS
draw upon,
has to
the
come
bank of the
earlier
imagination.
or later
Let us
than
imagine ourselves
T.
rich, well, and happy. Imagine
Vancouver
all our
is the
affairs
third
are in
place,
divine
but
order.
man, sorry.
But lead the way of
Is
fulfillment
Vancouver
to
the
infinite
third place?
intelligence.
Come Vancouver.
He has weapons we know not of. He has channels
When
which will surprise
Vancouver
you.
is third,
One of the most important passages in the
and we
23rd
have
Psalm is, Thou preparest a
T
table before me in the
as the
presence of my
second.
enemies. This means that even in the presence of the enemy
Where
situation,
is S?
brought on by your doubts, fears, or
Can
resentments,
S come
a
here?
way out is
No,
prepared for you.
S can
The
never
Lord is
be
my
here
shepherd, I shall
because
never want.
when trapezoid is earlier, RS have to
Chapter
come.
11.
So this
Look with
doesn't go
wonder.
to
I will remember
Wisteria
the
is the
works of the
place.
Lord.
When let's
Surely I will
say
remember
that
thy wonders of old. Psalms 77:11.
no
The
for
words wonder
Wisteria
and
is the fourth
wonderful are used
piece.
many
What's
times
the
in the
move for
Bible.
Wisteria? Do you
In the
say
dictionary, the
you can
word
either
wonder is
have
defined as a
1,
cause for
2,
surprise,
3, 4,
astonishment, a
5?
miracle, a marvel.
So we
Ustiensky, in his
can now
book
that we know
Tertium
Wisteria
Organum,
can have
calls the fourth
RS and
dimensional
T.
world the world of the wonders. He has figured out mathematically that there is a realm where all conditions are perfect.
It is
Jesus Christ
later.
called it the kingdom. We might say, Seek ye first the world of the
Levels that
wondrous,
are
and all things
T.
shall be added unto you. It can only be reached through a state of
This is
consciousness.
T. And
Jesus Christ said, To enter the kingdom, we must become as a little child. Children are continually in a state of joy and wonder. The future holds promises of mysterious good. Anything can happen overnight.
when T are
Robert
side by
Louis
side,
Stevenson, in A Child's Garden of Verses, says, The world is so full of a number of things. I'm
wait.
sure we should all be as happy as kings. So let us
Now
look with
let's
wonder
1,
at
2,
that which is
3,
before
4,
us.
5. What do we
That
know?
statement was given
We
me
know
a number of years
trapezoid.
ago.
being
I mention it
second,
in my book,
and the
The Game
question
of
says
Life and How to Play.
Wisteria is the
I
fourth.
used an
Okay, now
opportunity
that
and
Wisteria
felt
is
that I
fourth,
should have been more awake to my good. The next day, I
Artemis
took the
come
statement
early,
early
right?
in the morning. I look with wonder at that which is before me. At noon, the phone rang, and the proposition was put to me again. This time I grasped. I did indeed look with wonder, for I never expected the opportunity to come to me again. A friend in one of my meetings said the other day
Then
that this statement has
S
brought her
can be
wonderful
one,
results. It
can
fills the
be
consciousness with happy expectancy. Children are filled with happy expectancy until grown-up people and unhappy experiences bring them out of the world of the wondrous. Let us look back
This is
and
one
remember
last
some of the gloomy ideas which were given us. Eat the speckled apple first.
This
Don't
is wrong
expect too much,
because
or you won't be disappointed.
we have
You can't have
TR
everything
here.
in this life. Childhood is your happiest time. No one knows what the future will bring.
Yeah,
What a start in life. These are some of the
Wait.
impressions I picked up in early
2,
childhood.
3, 4.
At the age of 6, I had a great
Yeah.
sense of responsibility.
T is
Instead
not.
of looking with wonder at that
So,
which was before me,
when
I
trapezoid
looked
is
with fear and
ending,
suspicion. I feel much younger now than I did when I was 6. I have an early photograph taken about that time, grasping a flower,
R,
but with a careworn and hopeless expression. I had left the world of the wonders behind me. I was now living in the world of realities, as
let's
my
look
elders
at the
told
last
me,
one.
and it was far from wondrous. It is a great privilege for children to live in this age, when they are taught truth from their birth.
3, 4,
Even if they are not taught
When we
actual
have
metaphysics,
T
the
at
others
the
are filled with
second,
joyous expectancy.
then the last.
You may become a Shirley Temple, or Freddie Bartholomew, or a great pianist at the age of 6, and go on a concert tour.
Okay, we have T
We are
here.
all now back in the world of the wonders,
Okay.
where anything can happen overnight,
So,
or when miracles do
when
come, they
trapezoid
come
is
quickly. So let us
early,
become miracle conscious and prepare for miracles. Expect miracles, and we are then inviting them into our lives.
is earlier
Maybe you
than
need a financial miracle.
reciprocity.
There is a supply for every demand. Through
Yes,
active faith, the word and intuition, we release this invisible supply. I will give an example. One of my students found herself almost without funds. She needed $1,000, and she had had plenty of money at one time and beautiful possessions, but had nothing left but an ermine wrap. No fur dealer would give her much for it. I spoke the word that it would be sold to the right person for the right price,
W,
or that the supply would come in some other way.
S,
It was necessary that the money manifest at once. There was no time to worry or reason. She was on the street making her affirmations.
the last thing
It was a
here.
stormy day. She said to
When
herself,
reciprocity is last,
I'm
two
going to
things
show
must
active
come
faith in my
early.
invisible supply by taking a taxi cab. It was a very strong hunch. As she got out of the taxi at her destination,
Trapezoid,
a woman stood waiting to
sorry, comes
It was an
earlier.
old friend, a very,
Second,
very
which is the
transparent.
row here.
It was the
And
first time in her
Salambo
life
and
she had ever taken a
reciprocity
taxi,
can come
but her
a
Rolls
bit later.
Royce was out of commission
Now
that
we have
afternoon.
something here.
They
What can
talked,
go
and
here
my
that
friend
will
told
still
her
help
about
us
the
fulfill
ermine
the
wrap.
other rules?
Why, her friend said, I will give you $1,000 for
What
it.
can go
And that
here
afternoon,
is,
she had the check. God's ways are ingenious.
excuse me,
His methods are sure.
can Vancouver go?
A student
We
wrote me
have
the other day
Vancouver and
that she was using the statement, God's ways are
So
ingenious.
one,
His methods are sure. A series of unexpected contacts brought about a situation she had been desiring. She looked with wonder at the working of the law. Our demonstrations usually come within a split
Mr.
second.
must be
All is timed with amazing accuracy and divine mind. My student left the taxi just as her friend stopped to enter. A second later, she would have held
no,
another
Wisteria
taxi.
can be earlier than
Man's part
R.
is to be wide awake to his needs and hunches. For on the magic path of intuition is all that he desires or requires.
When this comes earlier,
In
we still
Molson's
have
modern reader's Bible, the Book of Psalms is recognized as the perfection of lyric poetry.
thank
The
you.
musical
This is the
meditation,
last one.
which is the essence of lyrics, can find no higher field
Tell
than the
Baba
devout
Lord
spirit,
there's something
where
wrong.
that once raises itself to the
That is
service
a
of
lot
God
of time.
and overflows on the various sides of the active and contemplative life. The Psalms are also human documents, and I
First and second
selected the
episode was
7-7
simple.
Psalm because it gives a
So
picture
the
of a man in
mysterious
despair,
that could be.
but But as he contemplates the wonders of God, faith and assurance are restored to him. I cried unto God with my voice, even unto God with my voice, and he gave ear unto me. In the day of my trouble I sought the Lord. My soul refused to be comforted. Will the Lord cast off forever, and will he be favorable no more? Hath God forgotten to be gracious? Hath he in anger shut off his tender mercies? And I said, This is my infirmity, but I will remember the years of the right hand of the Most High. I will meditate also of all thy work, and talk of thy doings. Thy way, O God, is in the sanctuary, who is so great a God as our God. Thou art the God that doest wonders. Thou hast with thine arm redeemed thy people. This is a picture of what the average truth student goes through when confronted with a problem. He is assailed by the thoughts of doubt, fear, and despair. Then some statement of truth will flash into his consciousness. God carries our genius. His methods are
If we're
sure.
following this
He
order,
remembers other difficulties
you
which
must
have been overcome. His confidence in God returns. He thinks, what God has done before, he will do for me and more.
this would still fit into all
I was talking
those.
to a friend not long ago who said,
4,
I would be
5.
pretty dumb if I didn't believe God could solve
First
my
and
problem.
second pieces.
So many times
If
before,
we
wonderful things have come to me.
reciprocity,
I know they will come again. So the summing up of the 77th Psalm is,
R and S
what God has done
must be
before,
earlier
he now
than
does for me and more. It is a good thing to say when you think of your past success, happiness, or wealth. All loss comes from your own vain imaginings. Fear of loss crept into your consciousness. You carried burdens and fought battles. You reasoned instead of sticking to the magic path of intuition. But in the twinkling of an eye, all will be restored to you. Or as they say in the East, what Allah has given cannot be diminished. Now go back to the child's state of consciousness. You should be filled with wonder. But be careful not to live in your past childhood. I know people who can only think about their happy childhood days. They remember what they wore. No skies have since been so blue or grass so green. They therefore miss the opportunities of the wonderful now. I will tell an amusing story of a friend who lived in a town when she was very young, then moved away to another city. She always looked back to the house they first lived in. To her, it was an enchanted palace, large, spacious, and glamorous.
Let's look at
Many years after, when she had grown up, she had an
if we
opportunity of
have
visiting this house.
come
She was disillusioned. She found it small,
2,
stuffy, and ugly. Her idea of beauty had entirely changed, for in the front yard was an iron dog. If you went back to your past, it would not be the same. So in this family's friend, they called living in the past iron dogging. Her sister told me a story of some iron dogging she had done. When she was about 16, she met abroad a very dashing and romantic young man, an artist. This romance didn't last long, but she talked about it a lot to the man she afterwards married. Years rolled by. The dashing and romantic young man had become a well-known artist and came to this country to have an exhibition of his pictures. My friend was filled with excitement and hunted him up to renew their friendship. She went to the exhibition, and in walked a portly businessman. No trace was left of the dashing, romantic youth. When she told her husband, all he said was, I would know. Remember, now is the appointed time. Today is the day, and your good can happen overnight. Look with wonder at that which is before you. We are filled with divine expectancy. I will restore to you the years which the locusts have eaten. Now let each one think of the good which seems so difficult to attain. It may be health, wealth, happiness, or perfect self-expression. Do not think how your good can be accomplished. Just give thanks that you have already received on the invisible plane. Therefore, the steps leading up to it are secured also. Be wide awake to your intuitive leads, and suddenly you find yourself in your promised land. I look with wonder at that which is before me.
right?
Chapter 12. Catch up with your good. And it shall come to pass that before they call, I will answer, and while they are yet speaking, I will hear. Isaiah 65:24.
Okay.
Catch up with your good. This is a new way of saying, before they call, I will answer.
Equivalency.
Your good precedes you. It gets there before you do.
Justice.
But how to catch up with your good? For
Salambu.
you must have ears that hear and eyes that see, or it will escape you. Some people never catch up with their good in life.
This
They will say,
is
my life has
community.
always been one of hardship.
And now
No good
that
luck
we have
ever comes to me. They are the people who have been asleep to their opportunities, or through laziness, haven't caught up with their good. A woman told a group of friends that she had not eaten for 3 days. They dashed about asking people to give her work,
limited than
but she refused it. She explained that she never got up until 12 o'clock. She liked to lie in bed and read magazines. She just wanted people to support her while she read Vogue and Harper's Bazaar. We must be careful not to slip into lazy states of mind. Take the affirmation, I am wide awake to my good. I never miss a trick. Most people are only half awake to their good. A student said to me, if I don't follow my hunches, I always get into a jam. I will tell the story of a woman, one of my students, who followed her intuitive leads, which brought amazing results. She had been asked to visit friends in a nearby town. She had very little money. When she arrived at her destination, she found the house locked up. They had gone away. She was filled with despair and commenced to pray. She said, Infinite intelligence, give me a definite lead. Let me know just what to do. The name of a certain hotel flashed into her consciousness. It persisted. The name seemed to stand out in big letters. She had just enough money to get back to New York and the hotel. As she was about to enter, an old friend suddenly appeared, who greeted her warmly and whom she hadn't seen in years. She explained that she was living at the hotel, but was going away for several months and added, why don't you live in my suite while I'm away? It won't cost you a cent. My friend accepted gratefully and looked with amazement on the working of spiritual law. She had caught up with her good by following intuition. All going forward comes from desire. Science today is going back to Lamarck and his wishing
I
theory.
think this is
He
a good
claims that birds
setup.
do not fly because they have wings, but they have wings because they wanted to fly,
We
the
still
result of the
can be the
push of the
first.
emotional wish. Think of the irresistible power of thought with clear vision. Many people are in a fog most of the time, make wrong decisions, and go the wrong way. During the Christmas rush, my maid said to a saleswoman at one of the big shops, I suppose this is your busiest day.
Yes.
She replied, oh no, the day after Christmas is our busiest day, and people bring most of the things back. Hundreds of people are choosing the wrong gifts because they were not listening to their intuitive leads. No matter what you are doing, ask for guidance. It saves time and energy and often a lifetime of misery. All suffering comes from the violation of intuition. Unless intuition builds the house, they labor in vain who build it.
Is earlier than
Get the habit of hunching,
one
then you will
trapezoid.
always be on the magic path. And it shall come to pass that before they call, I will answer, and while they are yet speaking, I will hear. Working with spiritual law, we are bringing to pass that which already is. In the universal mind, it is there as an idea,
No,
but is
so to strike
crystallized
you,
on the
let's not
external
bother.
by a sincere desire. The idea of a bird was a perfect picture in divine mind. The fish caught the idea and wished themselves into birds. Are your desires giving
Salambo
you
is the
wings?
third piece.
We should all be bringing some seemingly impossible things to pass. One of my affirmations is,
Trapezoid.
the unexpected happens. My seemingly impossible good
So let's
now
check
comes to
for
pass.
trapezoid.
Do not magnify obstacles, magnify the Lord. That
Knowing that
means
Vancouver is
magnify God's
second.
power. The average person will ignore all the
Trapezoid is the
obstacles and
third.
hindrances
Sorry.
which are there to
Can
prevent his
trapezoid be
good coming
third?
to pass. You combine with what you notice. So if you give obstacles and hindrances your undivided attention, they grow worse and worse. Give God your undivided attention. Keep saying silently
Must
in
be
the face of
earlier than
obstacles. God's
RS.
ways are ingenious.
Could
His
be long.
methods are sure. God's
Reciprocity is
power
the
is
fourth.
invincible, though invisible.
So
Call
let's
unto me,
small
and I will answer thee,
reciprocity is
and show
the
thee great
first
and
here.
mighty things which thou knowest not.
What do we need
In
for
demonstrating our good,
reciprocity?
we must look away from adverse appearances. Judge not by appearances. Get some statement which will give you a feeling of assurance.
We know
The
that
law of God
reciprocity
reaches
can
out over
come
people
forth
and conditions, controlling the situation and
here.
protecting my interests. I was asked to speak a word for a man who was to have a business interview with a seemingly unscrupulous
Is
person.
later.
I used the statement, and rightness and justice came out of the situation at just the exact time I was speaking. We have all heard the quotation from Proverbs, hope deferred maketh the heart grow sick, but when the desire cometh, it is a tree of life.
So let's assume that
In
it's
desiring
present.
sincerely without anxiety, we are catching up with the thing desired, and the desire becomes crystallized on the external. I will give to you the righteous desire of your heart. Selfish desires, desires which harm others, always return to harm the sender. The righteous desire must be
So
called
let's look
an
at
echo from the infinite.
SV.
It is already a perfect idea in divine mind.
3, 4, 5.
All inventors
With
that shall be the
reciprocity
ideas
as
of the
the
articles
fruits.
they invent.
So now
I say in my
that,
book, The
hey,
Game of Life, the telephone was seeking bell. Often two people discover the same inventions at the same
wait,
time.
when
They have
reciprocity
tuned in
is
with the
not
same
before
idea.
here,
The most important thing in life is to bring the
you're
divine plan
welcome.
to pass. Just as the picture of the oak is in the acorn, the divine design of your life is in your superconscious mind, and you must work out the perfect pattern in your affairs. You will often lead a magic life, for in the divine design, all conditions are
Now, if
permanently perfect.
reciprocity is the last here,
People
right?
defy the divine design, and they are asleep to their birth. Perhaps the woman who loved to lie in bed most of the day and read magazines should be writing for magazines, but our habits of
This
laziness
is wrong.
don't
Let's
all
go
desire
back
to go
to
forward.
option B.
The fishes who desire
Can
wings or
Salambo be
alert in
the
the
top
light,
piece on the
they did not
CV?
spend their days on the bed of the ocean reading Vogue and Harper's Bazaar. Awake now and sleeping, and catch up with your thirst.
Let's look at Wisteria.
Call on me, and I will answer thee, and show thee great and mighty things which thou knowest not. I now catch up with my thirst, for before I called, I
The
was
answer is
answered.
between C and D. So when
Chapter
trapezoid is
13,
the third,
Rivers
okay.
in the Desert.
S,
Behold,
V,
I will do a new thing.
T.
Now it shall spring forth,
And we
shall
already
ye
know
not
that,
know?
yeah, trapezoid
I will even make a way in the
earlier
wilderness,
than
and rivers in the
reciprocity.
desert. Isaiah 43:19. In this 43rd chapters of Isaiah
Let's look
are
at
many
D.
wonderful statements showing the irresistible power of supreme
Yes, V.
intelligence coming to man's rescue in times of trouble. No matter how impossible the situation seems, infinite intelligence knows the way out.
R.
Working with God power, man becomes unconditioned and absolute. Let us get a realization of this hidden power that we can call upon at any moment.
Okay.
Make your contact
This
with
is the
infinite
answer. So
intelligence,
here
the
we
God
have
within,
Salambo
and all appears to
coming
be
earlier
backwards,
than
or comes from man's
Salambo and
vain
reciprocity
imaginings.
coming earlier than
In my question
trapezoid.
and answer class, I would be asked, how do you make a conscious
Yeah.
contact with the
Then we
invincible
have,
power?
when this
In
is
reply,
earlier, we have
final word.
T.
Final word,
The
no
answer
justified.
is D, and reciprocity is
The
the
sincerity
fourth.
said to Jesus Christ, speak the
Okay,
word,
give me
Master,
that.
and thy servant shall be healed. Whosoever calleth on the name of the Lord shall be delivered. Notice the
Are
word
you
call.
worried?
You are calling on the Lord or law when you make an
It's so
affirmation of
short,
truth.
so just get it started.
As I always say, make a statement which clicks. That means gives you a feeling of security. People are enslaved by ideas of lack of love, lack of money, lack of companionship, lack of health, and so on. They are enslaved by the ideas of interference and incompletion. They are asleep in the Adamic world. They are asleep in the Adamic dream. Adam, generic man, ate of Maya, the tree of illusion, and saw two powers, good and evil.
So,
The Christ mission was to wake people up to the truth of one power of God. Awake
first one
now
is the
and
first
sleep.
piece on the CD.
If you lack any good thing, you are still asleep to your good.
Anyone
How
can
do you
do
awake
it.
from the Adamic
Actually,
dreams of
tell you.
opposites after having slept soundly in the race walk for hundreds of years? Jesus Christ said, when two of you agree,
So
it shall
we
be
know
done.
that it's
It is the law of
is
agreement.
the first.
It is almost impossible to see clearly
Can
your good for
trapezoid be the
yourself.
third?
That is where
This
the
case, if
healer,
we make
practitioner, or
trapezoid
friend
T
is necessary. Most successful
third,
men say they have succeeded because their wives
then
believed in them. I will quote from a current newspaper giving Walter P. Chrysler's tribute to his wife. Nothing, he once said, has given me more satisfaction in life than the way my wife had faith in me from the very first for all those years. Chrysler wrote of her, "It seemed to me I could not make anyone understand what I was ambitious except Della. I could tell her and she would not. It seems to me I even dared to tell her that I intended someday to be a master
Think
mechanic.
about it again.
She always
The
backed his
mysterious
ambitions.
first.
Talk
Trapezoid is
about your
the
affairs
third.
as little as
The
possible,
meaning is when
and then only to the
trapezoid
ones
comes
who will give you
later, only
encouragement
one
and
thing can go
inspiration.
here.
The world is
And
full
if
of worth
trapezoid is
greatness.
here, then
People who will tell you they can't be done,
RS have to
that you are
move
aiming too
together,
high.
right? And RS cannot
As
stay
people sit in
silent
truth
because V
meetings and services, often a word and an
must be
idea will open
earlier.
a way in the wilderness.
So
Of
let's
course, the
look at
Bible
B
is speaking
and
of
go
states
from
of
if.
consciousness. You were in a wilderness or desert when you were out
And
of harmony, when you were angry,
Vancouver is the
resentful,
third
fearful, or
place.
undecided.
7
Indecision is the cause of much ill
Vancouver
health,
S
being
definitely
unable
has
to
to
make up your
come
mind.
earlier.
One day when I was on the bus, a woman stepped in and asked the conductor its destination.
So what
He
we
told her,
have
but she was
left is
undecided.
TR.
She got halfway on and then got off, then on again. The conductor turned to her and said, "Lady, make up your mind." So it is with so many people. Ladies, make up your minds. The intuitive person is never
TR
undecided.
cannot
He
come
is given
later
seeds and hunches and goes boldly
because
ahead, knowing he is on the magic path. In truth, we always ask for definite leads, just what to do. You will always receive one if
RS
you
have
ask
to
for
be
it.
together.
Sometimes it comes
So
as
let's look at
intuition,
Salam
sometimes from the external.
with WB1.
One of my students named Ada was walking down the street, undecided whether to go to a certain place or not. She asked for a lead.
Automatically is
Two
the
women were
fifth.
walking in front of her.
2, 3.
One turned to the other and said, "Why don't you go, Ada?"
Calling Salam
The woman's name
here.
just happened to be Ada. My friend took it as a definite lead and went on to a destination, and the outcome was very successful.
Yes.
We really lead magic lives, guided and provided for at every step, if we have ears to hear and eyes that see. Of course, we are left
I
the plane
think
of the
this
intellect
can
and
go.
are drawing from the
Salam
superconscious,
is the
the
fourth.
God within, which says, "This
Yeah.
is the way, walk
Let's
ye in
try
it."
the D. And
Whatever you should
Vancouver
know will
is
be revealed
fourth.
to you. Whatever you lack will be provided.
And
Thus saith the
Mysterious
Lord,
first.
which maketh a way in the sea, and a path in the mighty waters. Remember ye not the former
Excuse
things,
me.
neither consider the things of old. People who
Vancouver
live
is
in the
fourth.
past have severed their contact with the wonderful now. God
This is
knows only the now.
automatically 3.
Now is the appointed time. Today is the
You
day.
can go.
Many people lead
Because
lives of
TR.
limitation, hoarding, and saving, afraid to use what they have, which brings more lack and more limitation.
Wait.
I give the example of a woman who lived in a small country town. She could scarcely see to get about and had very little money. A kind friend took her to an oculist and presented her with glasses, which
Please
enabled her
think
to see perfectly. Sometime
about
later, she met
this.
her on the streets without the glasses. She exclaimed, "Where are your glasses?" The woman replied, "Well, you don't expect me to
Cannot.
hack them out by
These two
using them every
can be
day, do
true.
you? I only wear them on
C and
purpose.
D can be true.
You must live in the now and be wide
Okay,
awake to
let's
your
look at B.
opportunities. Behold, I will do a new thing. Now it shall spring forth.
Let's look
Shall you not
let's
know
look
it?
at here.
I will even make a way in the
So
wilderness,
if
in rivers, in the
trapezoid
desert.
is the
This
last one,
message is meant for the
and
individual.
Mysteria is
Think
here.
of your problem and know
Now
that
we have
infinite
three
intelligence
more
knows the
items.
way of fulfillment.
When trapezoid comes
I see
later,
the way, but before you called, you were answered. The supply already precedes the demand. God is the giver and the gift, and now creates His own amazing channels. When you have asked for the divine plan of your life to manifest, when you have asked for the divine plan of your life to manifest,
this is
you are
true.
protected from getting the things that are not in the divine plan. You may think that all your happiness depends upon obtaining one particular thing in life.
It's something
Later
else.
on, you praise the Lord that you didn't get it. Sometimes you are tempted to follow with a reasoning mind and argue with your intuitive leads. Suddenly, the hand of destiny pushes you into the right place,
Look at
and under grace, you find yourself back on the magic path
trapezoid
again.
is the last place.
You are now wide awake to your good,
And
and
Mysteria
have the
is
ears that hear your
you know
intuitive
what?
leads, and the eyes
DE.
that see the road.
Let's go back to C.
The genius within me is released. I now fulfill my destiny.
So number is V.
Chapter 14. The inner meaning of Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs. I have been asked to give a metaphysical interpretation of Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs, one of Grimm's fairy tales. It is amazing how this picture, a fairy tale, swept sophisticated New York and the whole country due to Walt Disney's genius. This fairy tale was supposed to be for children, but men and women have packed the theater. It is because fairy tales come down from old legends of Persia, India, and Egypt, which are founded on truth. Snow White, the little princess, has a cruel stepmother who is jealous of her. This cruel stepmother idea appears also in Cinderella. Nearly everyone has a cruel stepmother. The cruel stepmother is a negative thought form you have built up in the subconscious. Snow White's cruel stepmother is jealous of her and always keeps her in rags and in the background. All cruel thought forms do this. The cruel stepmother consults the magic mirror every day, saying, "Magic mirror on the wall, who is the fairest of them all?" One day the mirror replies, "Thou, queen, mayest fair in beauty speed." But Snow White is lovely and fine and neat. This enrages the queen, so she decides to send Snow White to the forest to be killed by one of her servants. However, the servant's heart melts when Snow White begs for her life, so he leaves her in the woods.
This is not possible.
The woods are
That's
filled with
straightforward.
terrifying animals and
That's the
many
first
pitfalls and
one.
dangers.
So for this first
She
one,
falls in terror to the ground,
we use the
and while there,
first
the most unusual
and see
spectacle
the
presents
third
itself.
piece.
Scores of the most delightful
Take
little
the
animals
third
and
piece,
birds
then
creep up and surround her.
RS.
Rabbits, squirrels, deer, beavers, raccoons, etc. She opens her eyes and greets them with pleasure. They're so friendly and attractive.
It's
She tells her story and they lead her to a little house and she makes her home.
RS.
Now these friendly birds and animals symbolize our intuitive leads or hunches, which are always ready to get you out of the
Let's look
woods.
at A and B again.
The little house proves to be the home of the seven dwarfs. Everything is in disorder. So Snow White and her animal friends begin to clean the house. The squirrels dust with their grass.
We
The
have
birds
a
hide
good
themselves
one.
using their little deer horns for a catch-up.
Right?
When the seven dwarfs come home from their work of digging
The only
gold,
thing that can be
they discover the
is
change and at last find Snow White asleep on one of their beds.
S.
In the morning, she tells her story, remains with them to keep house and cook their meals, and is very happy.
Oh,
The seven dwarfs symbolize the protective forces all about us. In the meantime, the cruel stepmother consoles her mother and says to her, "Over the hills, in the greenwood shade, where the seven dwarfs their dwelling have made, there Snow White is hiding her head, and she is lovelier by far, O queen indeed." This infuriates the queen, so she starts off disguised as an old hag, with a poisoned apple for Snow White. She finds her in the house of the seven dwarfs and tempts her with a big, red, delicious apple.
Because when
The
we
birds and
have
animals endeavor to tell
that's the
her not to
third
touch it.
piece, yeah?
They try to give her the hunch not to eat it. They rush around in dismay. But Snow White can't resist the apple. She takes one
Where's
bite
the third
and
piece?
falls
Okay.
and hands be dead. Now all the little birds and animals rush off to bring the seven
My
dwarfs
name
to
is
the rescue.
Therapy.
But too late, Snow White lies lifeless. They all bow their little heads in grief. Then suddenly, the prince appears, kisses Snow White, and she comes to life. They are married and live happily ever after. The queen and cruel stepmother is swept away by a terrific storm. The old thought form is dissolved and dissipated forever. The prince symbolizes the divine plan of your life.
So I think
When
the
it wakes you
condition
up,
that
you
cannot
live
happen
happily
is
ever after.
trapezoid being the third
This is
piece.
the fairy story which has
Because
been throughout New
run
York
through
and the
it
whole
again,
country.
this trapezoid
Find
is
out
the
what
top
form
1,
of
2,
tyranny your cruel
3, 4,
stepmother still live
5.
in your
So
subconscious.
if
It is a
trapezoid is
negative conviction
third,
which works
right?
out in all your affairs.
The meaning is
We hear
we
people
can
say,
only
"My good
have
always comes to me
when
too late.
trapezoid comes
I've
later,
lost so many opportunities."
RS
We must reverse the
comes
thought and say repeatedly,
RS
"I am wide
always
awake to my good. I never miss a
will
trick."
come after, right?
We must
No.
drown out the dreary suggestions of the
No.
cruel
It
stepmother.
can't be
Eternal
because
vigilance is the price of
now
freedom
that
from these
trapezoid
negative
is
thought
here
forms.
and RS is
Nothing can
later.
hinder, nothing can delay the manifestation of the divine plan of my life. The light of lights streams on my pathway, revealing the open road of fulfillment. And this concludes The Secret Door to Success of Lawrence Scovel.
Yes.
If the person's doing the vision board and they're saying, when I get my new car, I get my new house, I get my new relationship, then I'm gonna feel so great. And well, then they're back to the program. Waiting for it to happen for them to feel the emotion. They're believing their outer world has to change in order for them to feel better. There's no effect of drawing the experience to you that way. So the person has to use those tools to get them into the emotional state for them to feel like it's already happened. Now think about this. If you get up from a creative process and you feel grateful, you feel a love for life, you feel a joy for existence, you feel a passion for the moment.
I just finished my LSAT prep today. As much as I'm proud that I'm improving, my speed level is, I have to like move really fast. Like,
emotions that you feel separation, and then we start looking